practice, our weekly Tuesday morning session at 9 a.m. This is, you can access this through Zoom, which some of you are on right now, or be watching it on YouTube or on Facebook. And this morning, I wanted to open with a Hasidic commentary on our weekly Parsha, on Parshat Toldot. And the story in our Torah opens with Rebecca having two nations in her womb. She's pregnant after being barren for some time, and they're struggling in her womb. What it actually says in the text, in chapter 25 of Genesis, it says, "But the children struggled in her womb, and she said, if so, im kain lama ze anochi. If so, if this is happening, why do I exist? Or why is it like this? Why do I exist?" An interesting thing to say. She went to a choir of Yud-He Vav-He, and God answered her, "Two nations are in your womb. Two separate peoples shall issue from your body. One shall be mightier than the other, and the older shall serve the younger." Now, the Ari, Rabbi Isaac Luria, great Kabbalist of Sfat of the 16th century, said that what she is asking is, there was an understanding at that time, and you'll probably smile or chuckle at this, but there is an understanding that righteous women do not suffer pain in pregnancy or childbirth. And so the fact that Rebecca was feeling this pain and feeling this struggle made her doubt her own righteousness, her own goodness. And on one hand, so she's asking, if this is happening, why do I exist? And the thing that's hard for her is that she also feels, and there's a midrash that every time she would walk by a Beit Midrash, a house of study of Torah, that Jacob inside would kick to like want to get out, that there was this, she was already aware of this, this yearning in her towards holiness. But yet she was experiencing this pain. And so she was asking, according to Rabbi Levi Yitzhak of Berdichev, who's giving this commentary, she's asking, well, why am I having this pain if I know that there's goodness and holiness in me? Every time I walk by the Beit Midrash, I feel that kick to get out. And the answer, according to Rabbi Levi Yitzhak's interpretation, is that God says, yes, I know that you are experiencing this pain, and I know that you're all experiencing this holiness, but the reason is because two nations are in your womb. Two separate people, one of them not so righteous, not so holy. One of them is going to turn out to be more concerned with self-gratification. But that holiness is there. So the other piece of this, and this is where this is going to take us into our consideration for our practice this morning, is this statement, Im ken lama ze anochi. Rebecca is saying, why do I exist? And Levi Yitzhak picks up on this word for I, anochi. Anochi is not usually used in the Torah for I, except for one place, when the Torah says, when God is giving the 10 commandments, and the first commandment is Anochi Yud-He Vav-He Eloheinu, I am the Lord your God. So when she is saying, if this is happening, if this is so, why do I exist? We can look at this, that she's asking, the deeper interpretation is she's asking, what is the holy I that is inside of me? If when I'm using the word anochi, it's not just about I and who I think myself to be. In this case, I think to myself to be not very righteous, not very good. Otherwise, why would I be having this pain that's going on? But instead, the asking, the I here that that's talking about, that we can look at it as, is the I is the same I that God says at the giving of the Torah, that this is the Anochi, that in each one of us, there is that deeper I. And the question that Rebecca is really asking is, what is the I, the deep I that exists in all of this? Beyond my idea of myself, beyond, because most of the time when things happen to us that are difficult, it's easy to ask, why me? Why is this happening to me? What did I do? And here the question is more to ask even deeper. What is the I that is even beyond there? And that's really in our meditation what we're opening to. We're opening to the I that sees, that watches, that is always present, that is that I, that Anochi Adonai Elohechem, I am the Lord your God, watching, present, open, loving, never turning off, whether we're sleeping, whether we're here, even as we're talking and listening right now. So let's go ahead and get yourself into a comfortable position, a place that you can sit for a period of time. And we'll start with a nigun, with a melody. And please feel free to sing along in your own space. There's something about the vibration and feeling the melody come through you that shifts consciousness, shifts awareness, deepens. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Yai, dai. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Yai, 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 yai. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Yai, 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 yai. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Yai, dai. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Ai, 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 ai. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Yai, 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 yai. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Ai, 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 ai. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Yai, Just let your body relax. Let your legs and your feet be heavy, noticing the meeting place of the bottom of your feet as it contacts the ground. Let your chest and your belly relax, let go, letting the belly be soft to receive the inhale and contract on the exhale. Feel the heaviness, the ease of your arms hanging out of your shoulders, the resting place of your hands. And be aware of your face, all the different sensations that may be present in your face, the air as it touches the skin, the top of your head, the space between your ears, the entire shape of your body from the top of your head to the bottom of your feet. Noticing how the body expands and contracts with the inhale. Following the air as it enters through your nostrils or your mouth. Being aware of your whole body in space as it expands for the inhale and contracts as the air leaves the body. Noticing the air as it passes through your on top of your upper lip or through your lips, the sensation in your nostrils, if you're breathing through your nose. Just feel the interest, the desire to be present with what is here. The place in you that knows that presence, depth is right here in this moment. That the alive energy of creation is here in your body, in your breath, in all the activity that surrounds you, the air, the sounds. Everything is filled with presence, filled with aliveness. And you get to open to all of it, to notice all of it, to be present for all of it. And as you pay attention to breath, to body, notice that they are objects in your awareness. You perceive the breath and body, so it is not you. The thoughts or pictures or images that may arise and fall and change in your consciousness. You perceive these thoughts, you witness them, and therefore they are not you. They are objects, transitory objects in your awareness. Who is it that is present for breath, body, thoughts, and images? This is not a question for your mind. Who is it? But somehow you can intuit, you can sense into this very present of awareness that is always here, that is watching. And the more that you give your attention to that which is watching, to that which is present, to that which beholds the objects in your awareness, the more you give your attention to it, you realize that it has no beginning and no end. You can try to notice where does it begin? Where does this awareness start? Where does this awareness end? Is it inside of me? If so, what is the me? Is it my conception of myself as a body? So somehow it's inside my body? Or does it expand beyond? Let yourself sense into the expansion of this awareness. That which watches, that which sees, that which is present has no beginning and no end, no boundary. It is the ground by which all experience and perception, all objects arise and fall. This I is ancient. This I transcends time and space. This is the I that said to our people, I am Adonai, your God, who took you out of Egypt, from the house of slavery. I am the reality that cannot be contained, that cannot be enslaved. I'm going to be quiet for a period of time. And I invite you, as you are present in this moment, being aware of breath and body, sounds, the symphony of experience. Let your attention reflect upon itself. At the same time that you are aware of the objects you are perceiving, you are sensing that very awareness. No beginning, no end. You can even have an intention to drop everything, to drop even a conception of breath or of body or of any of it, and just be in that presence. Not letting anything stick. Dropping it all. Pure presence. Pure Anochi. Dai, 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 dai. Dai, 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 dai. Dai, 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 dai. Dai, dai. Dai, 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 dai. Dai, 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 dai. Dai, 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 dai. Dai, dai. Dai, 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 dai. Ai, 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 ai. Ai, dai, 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 dai. Dai, 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 dai. Ai, 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 ai. Ai, dai, 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 dai. Dai, dai, ai, dai. Thank you for that sacred space, everyone. As we kind of move back to interacting between the inner and the outer now. Anything that anybody wants to share, bring some words to share any ideas, thoughts about the practice, about the teaching, about anything. This is probably over the last few months, we've been spending our time a little bit more directing our attention to the one who watches, the witness or the I, not just the objects of awareness. And this is a different kind of way of having attention reflect on itself than mindfulness. Simply being present with the objects in our awareness and staying with that. And I guess my question is, why do we do this? What do you imagine is the importance in being to practice reflecting on the I and being aware of the I, not just the objects, but the one who watches, and getting a stronger sense of that? What's the use in that? How can that help us grow and develop? Yeah, Eileen.
Well, it's what you said. It's not just me and my mind and my mindfulness. It's bringing God into it, and it's creating and developing a relationship with God, and putting him into the mixture, putting God into the mixture.
Yeah. My teacher, Rabbi David Zeller, used to say it's going from mindfulness meditation to Godfulness. And it's interesting to try to reflect on that, because on one hand, there's the sense of being able to be present with the objects of awareness. And one of the practices that we have done that has opened to a sense of Godfulness and has been not just being aware that as we're perceiving the objects, that we're only perceiving the surface, and that there is infinite depth in all of the objects of our awareness, breath, body, all of it. All of it is an expression of aliveness, of energy, of godliness, right? So in that, even in that meditation about being present with objects of our awareness, we reach beyond them as objects and instead living presence. In this direction, we were actually reflecting on the presence itself, the mechanism of that really our own sense of being able to bring attention to a moment, that very attention is the Anochi. That very attention is the Godfulness. And so it's not just the objects, but it's the watcher itself. It's all of it. But why the watcher and not just the Godfulness within the objects themselves? I can't see everybody, so
Oh,
yeah, go
this
ahead.
is Maury.
Yeah.
I always want to translate it into some kind of how we behave in the world, and it's less. I guess you're helping us to be less absorbed in our, I don't know how to say it, our small selves, and being again able to connect with something larger. I mean, I'm always talking about that. I know how to make it something, how we are, how we behave in the world, and try to find that in what you're talking about.
Yes.
It's not easy for me. It's, it gets pretty complicated, I guess.
Yeah, so thank you, Maury. I mean, when you're talking about going beyond our small self, there's a sense of who do we identify with in any given moment. And a lot of the time, when you say small self, I think about small self as really the objects in our awareness, which is a lot of the time the story. Our thoughts, we have all kinds of objects that are coming in our awareness all the time. Sensations in our body, pains, difficulties physically, things in relationships of how we hear people talk to us or whatever it is. And it's so easy to draw a story around what is happening and identify with that story. And so on one hand, by being able to practice not having the story be what dominates our consciousness, but instead the one who's watching, allows us to, we're identifying with a deeper and broader sense of who we are in the moment. And hopefully that would translate into, a moment when we're experiencing the story, to be able to be a sense of who we are as not just the story, but something even deeper. So I think that that's one piece. The other piece I would add is that, the more that we identify with this sense of presence as we are paying attention to our own experience, and we feel more rooted in what is that experience of presence itself in in our very act of paying attention, the more that in any moment we can be more aware of the presence that we bring to a conversation with somebody, to being out in nature, to whatever it is. And again, that presence is already a connecting experience, is already an experience of a certain kind of depth. Dennis.
Yeah, I think about the watcher as being more objective. That the little I is very subjective, and the watcher is the objective part that is kind of the self-correcting mechanism for the little I.
Yeah.
Like a conscience, for example.
Yeah.
Is the watcher.
Yes. Yes, nice. And when we talk about the watcher, the I, the big I resonate with what you're saying about objective, because it perceives everything. There is in the watcher itself, there's no judgment.
Mm-hmm.
There's compassion, there's space, there's all of it. And the thing that I want to really distinguish, and I think this is what makes this a very Jewish meditation, as opposed to maybe certain forms of Buddhist meditation, or even some forms of Advaita Vedanta, not all of it, which is very much about this non-dual piece, is that when we begin to open to the story of our Torah, that the I, that God that we're speaking about, that this I, this objective presence that you're speaking about, that is watching, is not neutral. It's not neutral. It has a desire. It has even one might say even an agenda, not an agenda as far as how we think about agendas, human being like, but maybe the agenda is to perpetuate these values, of compassion, godly. It has its own nature and its own presence. And when we begin to see that objective witness, that watcher, is not neutral, is not impersonal. And I say that meaning impersonal in the way that it doesn't care. It doesn't care whether this happens or that happens or whatever else it is. But we begin to sense into it as compassionate presence. Then there is a relationship that we begin to develop, and really what I think is more of an accurate perception of that sense of presence in ourselves as not neutral. That comes back again to Eileen's sense of Godfulness, that this objective presence, has a real sense of, I don't know how to say it, a compassionate agenda.
Is it like the objective part has a bias?
It's not a bias, because a bias implies a judgment. But I would say that it has a nature to it. It has a nature to it, like it has a, like when I think about compassion itself, that there's this desire to include. There's a sense, even the word in Hebrew, rachamim, for compassion, comes from the word rechem, which is a womb. And a womb is nurturing and inclusive and life-giving. I think that's the most important thing, life-giving. So this, so if you want to say that does this presence have a bias? The bias is towards life. That's the kind of bias that it's about. It's one that wants to encourage life, encourage variety, encourage creation. It's that, as opposed to couldn't care whether there's life or death or whatever, just sitting here like a Buddhist statue, like a statue. It's not the this presence that that's watching is not a statue. Let's put it that way. Any other comments or questions before we close?
So, Rabbi K'vod, if you're fully present with others and you are open to them, and so all of these other things that go on in your head kind of fall away. I think this is part of what I'm getting, to be fully present somehow in that moment with others, that you are, there's this kind of joining or commonality. I know I keep going back to that, but that's what I seem to take, that to be able to do that, to have, everything else fall away and to be fully present, joining with others, for whoever they are, that is a part of what comes out of this.
Absolutely. It's a moment of true sharing. It's a moment of true sharing, where it's not just one person sharing with another, but that you're both sharing the space. If you're listening to somebody else and you're being present as a listener, you're it's not just that you're just receiving, but you're truly sharing.
Mhm.
And the presence is what allows that to happen.
Thank you.
Okay. Any last comments? All right. Well, thank